Let's go, everybody. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the LA Poker Roundup. It is April 23rd, and this is episode 34. Man, and as always, I am your host, Ty Dobberton, along with my co-host, Derek Kwan.
What's up, everyone?
And we've got a nice one for you this week. So, the Gardens Casino has their spring series in full swing. Last weekend was the first big one with their first 1K popping off, so we will go over the results we have so far.
And Ty, looks like you made another deep run at your home casino, apparently, of Gardens. Let's hear a little bit about your run in the main.
You were there too, right? I want to hear how you did, Derek, personally.
So I wasn't there for long.
And then after that, there were a couple. You had some interesting rules things pop up down there at the Gardens, and something fun to talk about. And also, the World Series of Poker released their official rules for the summer, and Kevin Mathers put out some Twitter threads going over some of the differences that he noticed from last year. We'll talk about that.
And looks like we got a final table set over there in Florida at the Seminole Hard Rock WPT, and it's a stacked final table. And we'll talk a little bit about, how big they keep, blowing up these tournaments over there.
Yeah, and I also hear that there was another Savage Average run down there, so we gotta, we gotta try and get one of those run in LA. I'm very curious to see that. Spoiler alert, but there may be somebody in that whose hometown is Florida. One Landon Tice made that final table. And on the topic of Landon, with the World Series coming up, we want to circle back around and talk about the Landon versus JBecks crossbook bet between Berkey and D-Negs. They finally hammered out the terms, and that's good for all of us who've been trying to bet on the side with it. I myself have a little side action going on that bet, so we'll talk about that.
And a boxing young gun who's becoming quite a legend, who also plays a lot of poker. Name is Ryan Garcia, for those that know him. Had a big upset over the weekend in a huge fight. I watched the fight. It was an incredible fight. And he bet big on himself and won himself a ton of money. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, very exciting fight. I saw it as well. And then after that, we will close out, as always, with the weekly roundup. There is another series that will be starting up here in LA at Lucky Lady we will go over. So let's just jump right into the results, shall we? I mean, we had an exciting first week at the Gardens. It started out with some smaller events during the week, but the weekend is where it was fun. Let's start with the one day. So the one day event that happened on Sunday was the bounty. I think they called it the progressive bounty, but what it was that $50 bounty until we hit the money, and then a $100 bounty after that. And the winner of that was George James, apparently a Gardens regular. So congratulations. He took home over $16,000 in a 4-way chop. So way to go. That is fantastic. 300 entries and a total prize pool of $90,000 for that 50K guarantee.
I feel like a lot of the Gardens regulars wear those stylus sunglasses. It's like how you know they're the Gardens.
That's like the signature Gardens sunglasses.
The Gardens. Yeah.
All right. And then let's hop right through Kevin's Instagram here, the source for all the Gardens news. And I believe we had one or two other events. Oh, well, here's the qualifiers from that first day one. But they had a couple other one days. Let me quick pull the winners here. So the event number 2 was a 5-way chop with a bunch of Jeremys, Mr. Jeremy Hamey and Mr. Jeremy Mintz, taking the top 2 prizes. So congrats to these fellas. As Jeremy Hamey tried to point out, it's going to be the summer of the Jeremy. Spoiler alert later, he may have taken another Jeremy to do well. So congrats to those guys. Jeremy Mintz, over 8,800 in event number 2. The event ended up with a prize pool of over 55K, and it was 278 entries in that guy.
Man, for a one day, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, and not just a one day. It was like a Thursday or something.
Right. It was like a week.
Yeah, it's like a Thursday. It was only a 30K guarantee on that. And then I believe the first event was on, I think it was a Wednesday, and the winner of that, we had a top 2 chop between Samuel Wong and Gary Renkar. So for 15K and 14K, those two chopped. Another 274 entries. Man, wasn't that the exact same number the next day? Was it all the same people?
That's crazy.
And they had 82,000 in that prize pool. So these prize pools are fantastic. And remember, this is Wednesday, right? This is Wednesday. This is Thursday. This is fantastic. Another familiar name, number 3, was old Paul Wynn. Got third, and it sounds like he didn't want to chop or something.
That's unbelievable, man. This guy is just real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what a month! What a month! And then Jackie Lee in fourth, and Jeff Mulholland in fifth. So congratulations to all those guys.
And was this the monster stack? Oh no, this is event number one. So it looks like we have in chat Caitlin Jeffers, friend of the show,
Uh huh.
who finished 23rd in the monster stack for her first cash of 2024. So congratulations, Caitlin.
Ha!
Good
Well,
run.
congratulations, Caitlin. Way to go! Way to go! Hey, don't get us. It's just that Kevin only posted the final table or the top five. So get on him. Tell him to post the whole results faster. We'll get on
Yeah, yeah.
that.
Post all results and we will comb through it and find the names.
But way to go. First cash in 2024. Well, now that the cork is popped, you're going to be off to the races. So let's go.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to the main event, shall we? So the main event of the Gardens, the very first 200K, and I say first because they added those encore weeks with another 100 or another 1K, 200K guarantee. The final five actually decided to chop. Let's start with the final table picture here. So here's the final table. Bunch of guys you may recognize. A couple names that unfortunately I don't know. Like this fellow on the left, I see him everywhere. I do not know his name, but look at that motley crew here. The final five decided to chop, and that was taking first place was Albert Ramirez. He took 68K and the trophy. Congratulations, that's huge. That's monster. I took a look. That doubles Albert's Hendon lifetime total, so that's a monster score. Way to go. Jordan Bakersfield for 45K. He is the fella on the right of the picture in the black hoodie. Now, I'm not sure if that's spelled right. It may be a name wrong because I know for a fact this guy's cashed other events, and I couldn't find him in the Hendon under that name. Third was Real Gardens Reg, I believe, Hector Alvarez there. I believe that's the fella in the with his arm up in this picture here. And then we have Edgar Diaz, and then Ed Alicani getting fifth there, and Ed's the one who knocked me out of the event, so I'm glad to see he made it to the final table and did not squander that double up. So congratulations to these five.
Ed had one of the craziest hands I've ever seen, and it was against I guess I'm not sure if that's his name is Jordan or not, but Jordan had raised from middle position. Ed didn't see him raise and limped in. And he's like, "Oh, I have to call the raise," so he called the raise. It folds around to the big blind with a short stack and jammed, and then Jordan jammed, and then Ed called with queens. It was a crazy hand.
Oh, so he was trying to trap, but he ended up just like extra trapping. Is that
yeah, it was extra trap. Like he was trying to basically get people behind him to raise him.
Right, like the short stack, like you're saying. Yep.
Yeah, and he totally didn't see.
So
and then Jordan lost his, and they were both so deep, and Ed had just this humongous pile of chips, and Jordan. And I can't believe that Jordan actually made the final table after that hand. That was crazy.
So which day one was that on?
The last one.
On
I guess
the second
Saturday.
day. Okay, yeah. So
yeah.
that Jordan must have. If it was early, I guess he rebought, and if it was late, he managed to recover and managed the final table. So way to go.
I feel like it was post, but the registration might have been over. It was close to over, so it was pretty like midway. Anyways, yeah, it was nutty hand.
Yeah. Well, you sent me a couple texts this weekend talking about nutty hands. I think there appears to be, at least in your mind, a certain kind of action happening at the Gardens that you just aren't adjusting for. You wanna let people know how your weekend went before we flip over?
I think the players at the Gardens really play like a very specific kind of way, and it's all very consistent in a chaotic sort of way. And hey, T Honey Lemon in the chat, hello. It's really hard to describe. It feels like everyone's a little bit too loose and extremely sticky hanging out with any pairs. It's very, very hard to describe. And then they just play some absolutely like nutty hands where they're just getting in for like piles and piles of chips with hands are super not appropriate for it. And it's very, very hard to navigate that, right? It just feels very much like any step that I take, I'm like stepping on a grenade or something. Yeah, it's very, very tough to navigate.
Sticky players getting to the river too much, getting lucky and hitting big hands in the river. I wonder why I do well there sometimes. I think I fit right in on this joint.
You do fit right in. I think jokes aside, obviously you take a much more academic and thoughtful way, and applying pressure and aggression a little bit more intelligently. Everyone else does seem to be just like mashing buttons, and it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, but with these events and with these tournaments at the Gardens, I really do. I agree with you. It is extremely swingy, extremely swingy. You know, I play. You don't ever play dailies, but whenever there's an off weekend, I go down there and I play the dailies.
I
And you
I
joke
can't
it's my
imagine
home
if I were there.
casino. You
Jeez.
you joke it's my home casino, but I wish it was the closest casino to me because the action in these dailies so good. And a lot of the players in this 1K were kind of the same players from the dailies, right? They did a good job. They satellited in I think 17 or 18 people on the first satellite night into that first day one, and then they satellite in I think another 14 or 15 into day two, along with just a lot of the people who play there being able to afford to buy into this thing. So there were a lot of those same players, and they were playing really a lot of the same ways. I mean, if you think about it,
Yeah.
if the Gardens has such a great kind of loyal local player base that
Yeah.
even if it's a 1K, if all those guys get in there and six of the guys at the table are the same guys they always play with, I have a feeling they're just not even going to think of that 1K because they're just going to just fall right into their home game, right? Like they always play with these five guys. They know they're crazy. They're going to do their crazy thing, right? So I think it's really easy for them to just play their normal daily game if they're at the table with all the same dailies, right? Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I did take advantage of that and run a little bit good on day one here and there. Not a ton, but enough. I did my usual run up a big stack in the first two or three levels, and then do nothing and lose it almost back down to starting stack. Not quite down to starting stack. I was up to I got through on one bullet. So, keeping in theme with our if we do well, it seems like we get there on one bullet. On the Commerce 1K, I got there on one bullet. On the mini mega, right? You got there on one bullet. I'm getting
Yeah.
there. So it's funny. That's not how it always goes, but seems this year to be the trend. And we started what, 30K or 25? I think 30K. I
30.
was up to
30K. Yeah.
130K by the third level. It was crazy.
I mean, that's the thing about this place, right? Like I'm half joking. Not half. I'm probably like fully joking about the play, but I'm half joking about how like terrible it is or something, right? It's just more for funs. But when you're playing with players like that, like if you're running like shit, like 'cause I always run like shit at Gardens, it's extremely frustrating and very sad.
Yeah.
If you run good, my gosh, like you're gonna get two exit chips that you would get anywhere else because of the way these people play, right? So, yeah, when you run good at the Gardens, I'm pretty sure it's a lot of fun. I don't know what it's like.
Yeah, so I had a couple fun hands I can talk about. So I ran it up to the 130, and then after reg, I just literally between just before reg to probably a break and a half after reg, didn't win a hand, couldn't play a hand. I was back down to like 70K or 65K, and then this fun little hand happened. I was at the table with Paul on my day one. The famous Paul having a great month win, and he was influencing action, let's say, with the regs. Everybody knows Paul. And I what did I get? I got sevens, I think. Somebody opened, I called, another call, and then the guy on the button, another reg there, I forget his name, but he just calls, and then it gets to Paul, and actually no one even opened. It was a limp. So it was a limp, and there were like four calls. The button's like the fourth caller. Gets to Paul. He makes a big show. He had just very aggressively squeezed several times in the last orbit, or not orbit, in the last level, right? So he makes a big talk about how we want his other 1,000, his other half big, and we joke, and then he folds. Comes to the flop, 7-8 queen. I bet. I get raised by the button. I 3-bet, still calls. And then on the turn in the river, I'd make, now it's basically 1-to-1 pot to stack. And on the turn in the river, I bet like just a little under half my stack and the rest. And I get the crying calls. And the guy has aces.
Oh my gosh.
This is the kind of play that we see in these dailies and whatnot, right? Like it's a little bit overly fancy. He's like, Paul's going to squeeze. I'm going to just limp and Paul's going to squeeze. I'm going to get him this time,
Yeah.
right? And then they
Overly
couldn't
fancy
let
is
it
a good
go.
way to describe it.
Yeah, and then couldn't
overly
let it
fancy
go.
is very cool. Yeah.
And you see that kind of stuff, kind of like that's almost what Ed was doing, but maybe not on purpose because he didn't
He
know
totally
someone
didn't do
was
it on-
there, right? So,
Yeah, he didn't. If he just had raised the hand, that hand would have played out so differently.
but
Yeah.
yeah, so that got me going, and then near the end of the day, I had to make one of those plays that would have looked really wild if I hadn't hit the river. So, we were getting close to the bubble, 4 maybe 5 away, and I had the most chips at my table. I had like 500K roughly, and I'm opening a lot of pots, and the guys to my left they're just far too frequently battling back for way too big a size, right? So obviously that's annoying, and you know me, I don't want to open less because they're doing that. So I get sevens on the button, I open, and this guy who had just lost another pot blasts back for half his stack. So he had like 220 and he blasts back for 100K. And I think at my open was just like my open was like 19 or some 17,000. He makes it like 90,000 back at me. I'm just like, oh,
Mm.
he doesn't have shit, and we go for it. And I call him down. I call him. The flop is 9 high. It's like 966 or something, or yeah. He checks, and there's a flush draw out there, two spades, and he checks, and it's like, how would you play this hand, right? Like I've got sevens. The board's like 977 or 944, two spades, and the guy who just put half his stack in pre-flop now checks to me. It's like
Yeah.
he was just nothing. So I called him down. I was gonna call him down all the way, but I rivered a full house, and when he goes all in on the river, I beat him into the pot so fast and flipped my hand. He's just like he was speechless. He tried to make a joke like he folded, right, his hands face up. He folded, right. It was insane. He had ace nine offsuit, just stone nothing the whole way down. And I feel like you have to do stuff like that at least once an event over at the Gardens to get through, because people are making such wild plays. You have to pick
Yeah.
one off, and you have to be right in order to get
Yeah,
those
it's just such.
stacks.
I mean, when sometimes when people do like that kind of bet sizing, they actually do have a very nutted hand because some people are just so scared about aces and kings that they will go like 9x raise and then actually play trappy after the flip. So it's just so hard because you just don't know.
Yeah,
You just don't know
you
what
just
like
have to
it's like
know
everyone's
which it was.
yeah, everyone's doing something kind of a little bit weird, and you just don't know which one's doing which weird thing. So it's very landminey at the Gardens. But if I ever run good there, I guarantee I'm probably going to win that tournament because it's just it's crazy how much people punt their chips.
Yeah. So the turnout for this event was about the same as the last time they ran a 1K. If I recall, the last time they ran a 1K, they got to what, about 380? I think like 388 in the prize pool or so. This time got to just around 350, 340 something, right? So this was the return list. I actually came in with a pretty decent stack. I was second in chips on my flight. I ended up sixth in chips here, feeling pretty good. My table had I was the big stack at my table, and unfortunately, I ended up busting in 17th, which isn't terrible. But if you notice the payouts for this thing, I kind of want to talk about the payout structure of this thing. It was extremely top heavy, with like it was a one buy-in bump every table break until you got to the final table. What do you think? Do you like this payout structure? First place
One
was
but
was like 23% or so, right?
oh,
Right, because entry was
that is a little bit
1100
high.
and it was 22 is the first cash, 33 was the next cash, 44 was the next cash, 55. So you're getting plus entry fee. You're getting a buy-in every time a table broke, every 8 once we got rid of the first 10.
Yeah, I get it's not horrible, but it is a little slightly top heavy. I want to say just like a smidge top heavy.
Yeah. I feel like 340K in the prize pool. I don't know. For some reason, I really kind of like 20% as first prize, unless
Yeah,
unless it's like a
yeah,
tiny tournament, right? Like a 40-person
right,
tournament. I just kind of
right.
really like 20%. Like it just feels enough, because it's
It
still,
does. It
yeah,
does. It does make a difference. That 3% spread around makes a pretty big difference.
for sure. Because that 20% would have been 30 for 60, what, 68, right? So that's another 15
Yeah,
grand to spread around. You could
yeah,
definitely boost up like the 12th through
yep,
7th place, and make them feel better, right?
yeah.
Um,
A little bit more of a bump. Yep.
yep. But that aside, still a good turnout, not a bad finish. I tell you, man, it was the event overall, and the day two was extremely. It felt like an extremely winnable tournament because of the size of the field, and because almost all of the really kind of the guys that were really like always saying like, oh, this guy always wins, right? Like Jared wasn't around, Saul wasn't
Yeah,
around, right? Fausto wasn't around. These guys were all in Florida. Or some people went to the Win because they were having a pretty good multi-day
yeah,
tournament. They had a 500K for 600 entries. So they're really this really was a ton of the regs for just all the locals and folks that didn't want to
right.
travel like us, right? So this was a super winnable. It felt really good all day. Uh, I'm a little
What was
frustrated at the
the
way the cards came out for me. Is what
what
I'm.
was the 1K that got a million? How many starting days was that one over the holiday?
Oh, did they get to a million? I thought they only got. Did they get all the way to 1 million? They had
Yeah.
3 starting days, I think, right? The winter special one
Okay.
or but
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was also sort of a holiday, right? It was mildly a holiday. It
It
was a holiday week,
is.
but not really a holiday. It was like the third, the fourth, and the fifth, right?
Yeah. This one felt low in terms of turnout. And there were, I mean, obviously they were competing with, big WPT over there in Florida. But as you and I have said before, we need to incentivize our local players to not travel because that's a big deal. Like Florida is literally on the other side of the country,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, I get it's WPT. Yeah, I get it's going to be a big. Well, actually, I guarantee it was only 3 million. Was that right?
Was it 3 or 5? Three sounds
Um,
right.
yeah.
Because they like
So
hit it on day one.
yeah, it wasn't like that massive of a thing, and people kind of left here. So I do feel like we need to figure out ways to keep them here, and definitely. I get that it was a holiday, but maybe if we had set this tournament to 300K guarantee, we might have got 400,
Yeah,
right? Maybe you said that.
I think so. So I was actually talking a little Kevin about that. I didn't pick his brain real hard, but I kind of mentioned like it feels like to me it feels like there are probably certain thresholds where you set a guarantee where it starts to matter, right? At certain thresholds, it's like would you travel for if it's a 2 or 300K? Would that make a difference? I don't know. But if it's 500, okay, now maybe I'm traveling from San Diego. I'm probably still not
Yeah,
flying here from anywhere, right? If it's 1 million, oh, maybe now I'm traveling from Vegas and I'm traveling from
right,
from
right,
Sacramento. Okay, but I'm not traveling from the East Coast. If it's 3 million,
right,
we're coming probably, right? If
right.
there's nothing else going
Yeah,
on. So like it feels like there's certain thresholds and you need to know the sweet spots. You know,
yeah.
if only we
And
could get Kevin on to talk with him and pick his brain about such things.
and like the other side of the coin though is that everyone is gonna make a choice. So if there's a 500K guarantee 1K tournament at the Gardens in town and a $3 million tournament on the other side of the country that I have to fly and book a hotel for, right? Um, should I just stay for the 500K, right? So I think those are the types of
Yeah.
tough decisions you want to put on players, but I don't think this is a decision at all, right? I feel like it was just like snap, go to Florida.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. And the other nice thing is that is a huge series, right? This is, when
Yeah,
they made their plans, this was a very small mini series. Still a
yeah,
fairly small series with just the 2 and 3 weekends. So,
yeah,
can't blame them. And they get to come back hopefully for this second one, which actually, yeah, the second one will have a whole different makeup for other reasons. So yeah, my day two, it went smoothly except for whenever the other person was all in, which was very awkward for me. So my table draw was great. Turbo was
yeah.
there with a short stack, and no one else that I really was too familiar with. I guess I think a couple of our listeners were there, some of our friends of the pod, but they were they weren't real chatty. But I was the big stack at my table. I would grind so I started the day with 525. I would grind it up to about 700. I got all in with someone who had like 100K, and they would hit runner runner. So the first time I got all in, I was all in with somebody who had 90. So it was turbo. He had gone down to 95K. I had about 650 or something, 670. He jammed queen 10 under the gun. I was on the button. I figured, hey, maybe I can just pick off turbo, and then I won't recognize anyone at the table. I call him with ace 9. He wins. No big deal. I grind back up to 700. Next hand, I get my opponent all in. He opens from early. I flat out of the blinds with eights because there's zero fold equity. I'm like, all right, I'll just stop and go. It actually comes out king high. I end up check calling his all in, and he has ace jack. Runner, runner, Broadway. Okay, so we lose that one. So now I'm back
Wow.
down to 500. I grind my way back up to about 700, and then I get it all in with Ed, who comes over the table. And Ed apparently also knocked out Alti on a nasty cooler. He knocked her out when he had a set of fours versus her ace queen on like ace four or something. But he comes over. He loses a big pot. He gets way down in chips to like 150. I get, 125 or so. I get all in with him. I just have 9-10 suited against two bigger cards. No big deal, 60-40. I flop a pair and a gut shot straight draw, and he manages to make Broadway also. So it's just like, come on, I can't win a single hand.
Yeah.
And then our final hand, me and Ed are in the blinds. I open the small blind. Ed jams on me, like almost snap jams on me. I call with ace queen. He's got ace 9. And he makes two pair. I make just the one pair. It's just
Oh
like,
man.
come on, man. Let me win a single all in today. Just one. I have all these
Yeah.
chips. I took 4 shots at it. Just let me win a single time, please.
Yeah,
Uh,
you gotta win those all ins to go deep in the tournament. It kind of sucks when you lose the all ins. It's tough.
Yeah, and it was so brutal, especially because every time I was like, if I win this all in, I'll be like at 850, 900K. And honestly, that's
Right.
final table chips. Like
It
average
is.
chips at the final table for this tournament was would have been like 1.2 million. So if I get to like a
Yeah.
million, I basically have final table chips, and it's just like so frustrating. Oh
Yeah.
well, it happens. Can't
That
complain.
is
I made
rough.
money.
That's rough.
I mean, I can complain, but I am complaining. But that's why we're here, right? Yeah, Caitlin. So it's relatable, right? And you know what? If you want to see more relatable bad beats, I hear Derek put out another vlog. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but the title
Yeah, it's
looks
a fun one.
juicy.
It's a fun one. Not fun for me, but it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I telling you, people like pain. I think that
This will be a popular one.
yeah. Now, unfortunately, for this next 1K, so this weekend I'm excited for the weekend tournaments coming up. But for this next 1K, I actually don't think I'll be able to play the next 1K because the day two is the same day as the Commerce free roll, and I actually think I'm gonna
Yeah.
get to the hours. I'm very close. I should qualify,
Nice.
and as you know, we all know, Commerce is the place to be. I mean,
You
look
for a
at
minute about my early days when I was grinding, trying to build a bankroll. And those days happened predominantly at the Commerce Casino. Nothing.
Look at that. Even D-Negs played at the Commerce Casino. I don't remember ever hearing about that, but D-Negs played at the Commerce Casino. He was grinding it back in the day. Look at that.
Yeah.
This was
Yeah.
put
Used
up
to come.
on the GG on the GG Poker's page. And as we talked about before, GG Poker's partnership with like Bally Live and with the World Series of Poker and et cetera, they're clearly pushing for this for our circuit stop. So that's awesome. I mean, I don't know how much I believe his endorsement of Commerce, but like I'm glad he's doing it. I hope other people see it and they get kind of excited to come out. So let's go. All this advertising is got to be a good thing, right?
I mean, I'll give DNX credit where it seems like he typically will only just say things that he mostly believes. And in that sense, he did kind of word things pretty carefully where he's like, Commerce used to be the place to be back in the day, right? And WSOP is there now. But, it's almost like the same sentiment that everyone has that we have. It's like, yeah, poker hasn't been great in LA for a couple of years, but now it seems like WSOP is turning things around. I hope DNX shows up. I mean, it'd be kind of cool if he does.
Wow,
I'm
yeah,
not sure.
that would be huge.
I'm not sure. I'm not. Yeah, did he get a bracelet or a ring this last year? I'm not sure, but if he can make the tournament of champions, that'd be kind of
Oh,
nice.
yeah. I don't know. I don't think he got he definitely didn't get a bracelet. I don't know
Okay.
if he plays circuits. If he got a ring, it would have been online probably, right? We do
Yeah,
know he doesn't like to travel to play if
that's
he
true.
if he doesn't really have to. So, I don't know. It would be cool if they got him, but it looked like they're gonna get, they're gonna have they had the main event champ, right? He was here for the press conference, so maybe they'll have
Oh,
him come out and
Wyman.
play
Yeah.
again, right?
No,
So
he's playing.
yeah,
I
so
think he confirmed press conference. He's
yeah,
gonna play a few
so
events.
so we'll have him. So that's great. So, I'm sure we'll have. I think they're gonna pull out some stops to get some of their big names out. So we're gonna definitely have some cool poker celebs back in town, which is awesome. That's one of the things we were talking about before, trying to get some
Yeah.
buzz.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
on-
I'm super excited.
Now, on a cautionary note, right? This came out. We did have finally some people saying they're coming to the tournament champions, and they're having some administrative problems, some issues with the hotel, little left hand not communicating well with the right hand situation. So, Matt Sundberg said he tried to call and you get that special rate, which is I guess no resort fees or something. And they're saying the hotel was sold out and that they couldn't get that they didn't know what this room was. They didn't know what this rate was. The hotel people didn't know what the tournament champions was. That seems like a massive fail. Jeremy's jumping in here saying, "Hey, start talking to people."
I mean, like, this is what I mean. I feel like the people that are actually kind of involved in poker are sort of, doing the right motions now, but then it just almost just feels like there's some, incongruousness to the rest of the operations sometimes,
Yeah.
obviously, like you have WSOP plastered everywhere all over the casino, right? You are promoting a room rate and you have the entire poker community complaining that it's there, right? And they were saying, hey, you can stay at the Commerce for a cheaper rate. How do your hotel employees not know about this, right? It's pretty bad.
Yeah. Now, the upside is, as you see on the screen, the Commerce Twitter account did see that and tweeted back, and they sent him a message. Hopefully that is all resolved and good. Hopefully a lot of the bookings are reserved for tournament champions. That would be great. And Yeah, I don't know. If Jamie Gold will play. That would be cool. Maria Ho said she was planning on playing some events. I mean, Jamie definitely wouldn't be playing the Tournament of Champions, but he could play
Yeah.
some of the circuit events. Maria said she'd be showing up, so we probably have Maria Ho sightings. There's a lot of other, LA pros. They'll probably show up. I'm sure Rampage will come. Like he's in LA
Yeah.
all the time playing at Hustler. So, and we heard he has like a house or a place to stay around here, so he'll probably come by as well. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
And anybody who is traveling, obviously, if you're running into issues with the hotel, definitely make sure you're tagging the Commerce account and make sure that they're getting your attention. If they're not getting your attention, you can maybe tag me or Ty, and we'll see if we can get a hold of somebody to come help you. But I really do hope that the Commerce, like you and I are expressing some concerns about their capability to handle like all the volume, right? At
Yep.
kind of that small room. Are you going to be able to do your alternates correctly? Who's your tournament director going to be?
yeah, right.
But like this, like that's not a great sign, like what's happening with the hotel already. But hopefully things will snap together by the time the circuit comes around.
For sure. Yeah, I'm the thing that concerned me the most was that the person didn't even know what the tournament champions was, I mean,
Yeah,
obviously,
it's
I don't know what the conversation was, but like if you aren't briefing the whole property on what's about to happen, like how can you be
right.
ready, right?
I remember I called the win about something. Like I booked the WPT way early. I called them months earlier to ask about something, and they kind of already knew what it was. They were able to look everything up, and they're all very obviously it's like the win, right? But just yeah, some consistency and communication would be
Yeah.
helpful.
But like that's, to what Maria said when she was on the show, that's part of why the win's so great, right? All the little details,
Yeah,
everybody knows, everybody's ready. The service, they're ready for service. Like, hey, you call up the win and you're coming for something, you could probably name some obscure conference or like whoever's using the smallest conference center in 5 months and tell them you're with them and the person will just know, right? Or they'll have it at
yeah,
their fingertips in 2 seconds. It's just
yeah,
those kind of things are so important for customer service, right?
right. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So let's hop across country. So all of the regs, and I feel like our LA regs that went down there would have been good for at least 15 to 20 bullets in this 1K if they had stayed. So that would have boosted us up closer to 400. But they were all down here in Florida, and none of them made this picture, this motley crew right here. So they definitely should have just stayed. That's what I think. Now, as an aside, I did see, I think David cashed. I think David Uvidov cashed. I think Fausto busted, unfortunately. And I think I did not see many updates. I can't remember seeing many updates from others. Maybe I'm not following everybody on Instagram and Twitter. But if you guys know anybody other results, let us know. We'll pop them out, put them in the chat. But the final table does have some faces we do recognize, not LA people, but I mean, if you don't recognize this guy here, Jesse Lonis, you haven't been watching poker lately. And then if you take a look on the far right, that is not a Photoshop. The final tables he was at last year were all Photoshopped in, but that is Landon Tice of Solve for Why and of the Landon Tice Jeremy Becker rivalry coming up this summer to a World Series near you. So this
Yeah.
is a pretty stacked final table right
That is
here.
an unbelievable final table.
And
Yeah.
not only that, but in the final 24, I think Josh Aryeh was still in. Like,
Yeah.
holy cow! Like this thing was huge.
Yeah.
This thing was huge, and
Super,
these guys
super,
to make it through.
yeah, super stack field.
Eh,
A huge tournament. Obviously, they got up, 6 million, 5.98 million, 1869 runners. So they're still doing really great things with Florida. And obviously, this is a WPT sponsored event, so they got a little bit of a boost. But we would love to see keep beating this drum, right? California return to those glory days where we're the ones with the $6-7 million prize pool.
yeah, and not only that, but I'm not familiar with who it is exactly. I think it might be this Josh Richard guy. I think he actually got so Jesse won one of these Florida WPTs last year. It might have been this one actually, and I think this Josh guy got fourth in this one
Oh,
last time.
no
So like
kidding.
this consistency is insane. Like
Yeah.
that's crazy. It's like why even bother going down? Jesse's just gonna win it, and this other guy's gonna file tape. There's no more spots for you to win. Like holy cow! Like wait, what a performance!
Yeah. And Jesse Lonis, and we have talked about him a bunch of times and how obviously great of a player he is. And even though he is publicly sort of anti GTO and solvers, more of a field player, I'm pretty sure he must study a little bit or something, right? Because he plays really, really well. The thing that's crazy about him is that he's obviously doing incredible in those high rollers in the Poker Go studio, right? Sitting with the Chidwicks and those guys, right? And performing incredibly well. then he goes to these big open field events and also does really well. I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't seen like the Chidwicks do great in the open ones, right? The people that you do see do really well in both. It's kind of like Jesse and like Chance Cornuth. And I'm not really sure who else, right, does well in both. So it's pretty amazing that you can navigate both those types of fields.
Yeah, it's such a difficult adjustment to make, to be making all the time as well, to just be flipping back and forth and back and forth. It's kind of like if you're used to you got used to playing, I don't know, the deep in the mini mega, and then all of a sudden you go to the gardens or something.
Right. Yeah, it's two very different player. Yeah, I think that's a very good analogy. Actually, it is a very good analogy.
All right, but yeah, so Landon is all set to get another big score here. It looks like he may actually be eclipsing 1 million in tournament earnings, which is quite amazing considering I'm pretty sure his live volume is incredibly low. But I am kind of sad he's doing it so early here, because I got a little side action on the Jeremy Becker and Landon battle with
Nice.
with one of our listeners. As I kind of mentioned before, Jeremy Hamey he's very high on Jeremy's. So he took the Jeremy side, I'm taking the Landon side, and man, it'd be nice to start with this. But I bring it up because this has been kind of a bubbling feud, something fun for the poker world to watch this summer. I'm excited to sweat it, even if I hadn't made a bet. It would be fun. But they were a little unclear on what the rules were, the official rules were for their crossbook. They're at first, when this first was announced, they were going to try and do like, they have to be mutually played events. We have to lock in that we're going to play the event together, like the day before or the morning of. You have to, we have to decide how many events we're going to play, et cetera, right? It's getting really complicated, but it turns out that they, the Berkey team and the DNEG side have settled on their terms, and they're a lot simpler now, and I like it. And what it does, it's going to encourage volume. It's going to encourage it just makes things so much easier. So let's hear what those are.
Crossbook bet terms on his pod, but you guys haven't explained it here. So it's very simple. We're basically just being book of Timex for one another. So what that means is every single no limit event that Becker plays, and every single bullet that he plays, we're crossbooking 100% of his action. So if he busts, he owes us that buy-in. If he cashes, we owe him whatever he cashes for, less the buy-in, and vice versa. So every single no limit event, Landon plays 10K and below, they're taking 100% crossbook. So basically, like, Landon's buying 100% of himself from DNEGs, I guess I'm buying 100% of Landon from DNEGs, and DNEGs is buying 100% of Becker from me.
Interesting.
There's a bonus bracelet bet. So if you win a bracelet, it's a $100,000 bonus. Every event is capped at, I believe we settled on 300K, but I have to double check. It might be 250. I think we settled on a 300K cap though.
Yeah. So it's 250. Like, I'm not sure why he doesn't know his own rules. I guess he'll figure, he'll look it up right when it's relevant. But it's so much simpler now. It's just a time limit thing, beginning of summer, end of summer. Every event they play, that's 10K or below, with a cap on the maximum a single event can be worth. And then there's this weird little mutually played bracelet events. If one of them spikes the bracelet, there's a bonus. Yep.
Yeah, it's nice. It's pure. It's almost like a player of the series type of race, right? So you just, somebody's getting ahead of you. You got to run in and try to catch up. So yeah.
Yeah. So good luck. Good luck to the Jeremys, but more luck to my side.
I think it's interesting that you took the solver guy.
Yeah. Right. It's mainly because, just like Berkey said, if you could get odds, you should just take either side. And Jeremys they're just too much of homers. They just can't. They see another Jeremy and they got to go for it. So I was able to get us a little bit of odds. But no, honestly, it's because I feel like if I'm going for like a personal sports betting analysis kind of thing, which is good seg for later, I feel like I'd only seen Becker winning these dailies, right? And that's great. That's an awesome skill, but I didn't see him winning anything else before I picked a side. And I feel like, as a kind of a nerd, I'm going to go with the academic a little more, So it's all good. It's all good. So, speaking of that summer bet, though, right? So we're all getting geared up for the summer series. The World Series of Poker released their summer rule set, which it doesn't have a lot of changes, but there are some, and there are some things going on. But before we go to Vegas, let's talk about some rules more local. This weekend, you had overheard some rules controversy there, or rather a
Yeah.
unusual ruling, right? Made your ears perk up.
Yeah, it was actually at my table. A player had asked, and it was a pretty good reg, had asked the dealer to spread the pot, and the dealer said, "I can't touch the pot." And I was kind of not paying attention, and I was like, "What did you say? You can't touch the pot? That's weird." And then they called the floor over, and eventually had to call Kevin over. Then Kevin actually confirmed that there is no like spreading the pot, which is interesting because people spread the pot to get a chip count, and most places allow that. And I actually messaged Kevin, and he did mention like basically based on the TDA rules, right? That unless it's like a pot limit game, dealers are not supposed to help players count the pot. And he, personally at the Gardens, interprets spreading the pot as helping the players, so that's why that's not allowed. It was really a bit of a surprise, but I had no idea that was the case. But yeah, it was an interesting. I think all the players at the table were pretty surprised too.
Yeah, especially since it's so standard everywhere else, right?
Yeah.
But that's something that Kevin, a number of people, as much as most people seem to love playing at the Gardens, the people that don't like it, I feel like they've had a couple experiences where they've run into a harsh rule or something they think is too strict, and that's just kind of rubbed them the wrong way, right? I heard one person say they told a story about, I think, a round penalty they got for something they didn't think they should have gotten it for, and they were very upset about that. And then I was talking with one of the Bayo brothers, and he was saying that he wasn't able to get into the one of the satellites the night before because he was like 4 minutes too late for reg, and he was getting annoyed about it or whatnot. And then he had a good discussion with some of the other regs and with Kevin, and he's fine. But like the Kevin runs kind of a tight ship there, especially when he's in the room. And personally, I'm here for it. I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
Said it
Yeah, me
many
too.
times. I'm a nerd. I'm a rules nerd. I personally don't really agree with the no spreading the pot rule, but if it's consistent and that's the rule, hey, I'm okay with it being the rule. I don't agree with it. Whatever, but that's how it works.
Yeah.
And Kevin has a lot of interpretations for his rules, and I believe he's consistent in that he's trying, in his interpretations, he's trying to enhance the skill side of poker while being
Yes.
fair, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
That-
And you can't disagree with that, right? At all. He yeah, and somebody who enforces the rules like that, right? So some negatives might come from it feels a little bit harsh, but I'm going to say generally what you're going to get and you don't notice it, right, is a really well tightly run ship, which is why everyone kind of likes playing at the Gardens, right? So you get kind of, the good with the bad sometimes. And rules are interesting, right? So rules are there on the important end is to protect players from things like cheating, like collusion, right? That's the type of stuff
Yep.
where rules have to be very, very specific. And then the whole other spectrum of rules are doing things to enhance player experience and speed up the game and make sure there's consistency of rules. But I think where we might over time and every year, I'm pretty sure the TDA must like do this too, right? Is that they kind of have to look at the rule set and see which ones maybe help amateurs out a little bit, right? And the reason why you want to do that isn't just because you feel bad for amateurs, but you're trying to grow the game. And if you make the game feel a little bit hostile to amateurs, that's not great. I'm not saying that this ruling is that at all. But just generally, if we're going to bend the rules or go one way or the other, I think things that make amateurs feel a little bit more in hope at sometimes a very intimidating game, especially for new players when they're coming in and just trying to figure out, what a string bet is. Right?
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah. Oh, at the same time, you have like 5 kills at your table trying to take all your chips. It's a lot to take in, right? So I think things that we can do to adjust the rules to help them are probably better for the growth of the game. And I think consistently across everywhere in the world, we should just be very focused on growth. And again, I'm not saying that this ruling is anything to do with that, but I'm just saying in general, if we're going to bend rules, that's the way we should bend them.
Yeah. And in the TDA rules, there's nothing explicit about whether a dealer can or can't spread the pot. It's simply,
Yeah.
it's the interpretation, and I'm down with it. And the reason that it's we know that is if you take a look at the World Series rules, they actually have something talking about that. Now, this is in the section about what to do during a shot clock, but they explicitly call out on this rule that that the dealers may spread the pot so that a participant can count it. So at the World Series, you can still ask them to spread the pot.
Yep.
That is what they will allow, but you can't say I bet the pot in a no limit game.
Yeah, and they kind of wrote, they write things in here very specifically about like the spreading. Obviously they're adding that, and I think that's probably trying to follow what I said, right, about helping amateurs out, because most likely, and like even you, like even though you're technically not a pro, right, you are a semi-pro, and at least twice, I think you've told me that you made a tremendous error because you didn't get the chip count of your opponent, right? It's not the same as the pot, but it's still like a chip counting thing, and sometimes it's a lot hard, especially if it's late and you're tired and there's a lot going on, right? And you're feeling a little bit rushed.
Yep.
A lot of stuff going on, right? So anything we can do to help people out, the better.
For sure. And then the other interesting thing is that the Gardens is the only place around town that runs shot clocks later in a tournament. So we were running the shot clock all day too, and we ran it close to the bubble, which is great. I also love it. And I did have interesting. I had a question because we had I had a slightly annoying weird hand happen that involved the shot clock. So here in the World Series rules, they actually call out that when a shot clock is in play, the dealer should count and announce all bets prior to starting the shot clock. So I like that a lot. I guess the trouble will be in the training of the dealers to do so and to making sure it's consistent. The way it works at the Gardens, and I think the way it works at most places, is that is not the protocol. That's not the rule. You may ask for a count of the bet when it's your turn, and then they will pause the clock for you. So it's nice that that's automatic, like you said. An amateur may not know to ask. And also, savvy players can just ask for a count to get an extra 4 or 5 seconds on the clock.
Right.
So that's a thing.
That is a perfect example of what I just said, right? It's something that like helps the game. And like before, it used to work a certain way where I'm not even sure why, right? It was always like, don't say anything at all until a player actually asks, right?
Yeah.
And it was such a hard rule, and it's really annoying to me, like when other players get like really nitty about that, like you're not supposed to tell them the chip count. I'm like, Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? Just like help this player out. Like they're gonna ask you in 2 seconds anyway, so why don't you just save some time? I love that it just like. Yeah, just tell them. Just tell them.
Yeah.
Like, it reduces mistakes. It helps amateurs out. Like what you're saying, like it prevents like people from angle shooting a little bit and trying to ask for chips. It counts when they need more time. Yeah, so I love that type of like adjusting of rules, and it feels like WSOP does bend the rules in a way that helps amateurs out more.
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense. And like I've said before, the only thing that I like about online better than, almost the only thing I like about online better than live is that all the public information is public. It's very accessible immediately without having to do anything weird like, I need to ask for a count. I need to know that I can ask to spread the pot. I need to know that I can ask, whatever, and it shouldn't be up to the amateurs, like you said. It should just be, if I'm allowed to ask for the pot size or ask for the bet size, then why isn't the rule just count the pot or count the bet and say it, right? Like everyone's allowed to ask, so just say it, right? So that is so the story that I was going to say though is typically at the Gardens when you play with the shot clock, the dealers will give you a 10-second warning. Now there's a little beep on the iPad as well, but they also usually say, okay, 10 seconds. And then the other rule, and this goes whenever you have time chips anywhere, once that timer goes off, they're supposed to take a time chip and you just keep going. If you have a time chip, they just take the time, they say, okay, you owe me a time chip, and they just keep going, right? So those were the rules. Those were announced, when we started. But I was in a hand. I got into a hand with somebody. I was on the button. I raised up threes. Big blind defended, and my flop is 3, 4, 7. Amazing, right? So I go for the c-bet, and this player was somewhat short stacked. I think my c-bet was like 30 or 35, and they had maybe 110 left. So they're pretty short. It's like, what are they going to do? They're going to jam? They're going to think? So it was a pretty significant bet for them. And the player's counting his stack, counting his chips, running out of time, counting. Didn't notice the clock at all. Didn't notice the little beep. Dealer didn't give him 10-second warning. And then when the time ran out, I saw him visibly, like the alarm goes, he visibly jumped like this. And then just, he had the calling chips out front. He was counting his stack. He jumped, and he just slid his cards over to fold. he should have lost a time chip, and he should not have had to fold. And I got the impression that he thought that alarm went off. I guess I folded, and he's just like, all right, I was
Yeah.
still deciding, but I guess I just fold. And I actually played cash with that player later, and he had pocket fives there, which is funny because I feel like that should probably just be a snap jam against that situation or something like that. But in any event, it definitely was not a spot where he should have auto folded because of the time, because he had a time chip. The time chip should have been spent and not the cards. But turns out the dealers were not instructed to give that 10-second warning. It's a courtesy. So that's also interesting because I was just so used to it happening every single time. Like every dealer did it, and then I didn't hear it this time, so it annoyed me because I thought it cost me a call. And yeah, it's.
I mean, I feel like every place that has a shot clock has. I'm not sure if it's a hard rule, but I've never seen a dealer not give a 10-second warning.
Yeah.
Like everywhere I play with a shot clock has had that.
Yep. So apparently that's just advised and it's recommended, but it is not required. So, we have a story from Caitlin in the chat here. She says,
yeah. So Caitlin was basically saying worst experiences playing the Commerce. So I asked what happened.
Yep.
So it looks like talking about angle shooting. So yep. It's Commerce people.
Yeah.
And start screaming. She has to call 25 deal.
He announces 25
Yeah.
and throws chips in.
So this what I mean. It's like I hate players who do this kind of stuff. It's very, very irritating.
Yep.
Like whenever I see somebody make a mistake like this, I'm almost like trying to explain to the floor when they come over, like this is a mistake and just let them go, right? When it's very, very clear they just made a mistake. And sometimes the good deals like the good floors like Larry will bend the rules sometimes when he understands what's going on.
Yeah, but in this case, it sounds like it wasn't even a mistake on her part. It was just straight up an angle on the other person's part. So
Yeah.
So I mean, that's inexcusable.
I didn't think to call the floor. Didn't go back there, and every time I would cash it. Well, you know what, Caitlin? You're a much more experienced player now. I think you know how to stand up to the angle shooters and call them out. So I don't think you should deprive yourself of a chance at winning a ring.
Yeah, absolutely not. These
Yeah,
tournaments,
so
they're going to be the best tournaments in
are.
the first half of the year for sure in LA. Yep.
Yeah.
And if you do have a problem with someone who's angle shooting, just call me over. Aside from winning, the only thing I like better than as much as winning at a poker table is just running down angle shooters and giving them absolutely giving them crap, whether it's verbally or just like raising the heck out of them and just firing at them. Like, I don't care. Like, that's the only other thing I really enjoy. One funny story is when I was playing a low cash game at the bike, this one guy was just being so miserable and giving everybody crap about every little thing. Like, oh, they're speaking a different language. Oh, they're this, they're that. They're, he's trying to angle people. He's doing a little. This guy was absolute horrible, miserable dude. And I started coming after him aggressively. I started showing him the bluffs. I started throwing it in his face, and he got so mad that when a dealer got up, because they always blame the dealer. They're not playing bad. He kicked him. He kicked him a little bit under the table. The dealer instantly called the floor over, and the guy got thrown out for like a week. It was one of my private. That's one of my most proudest 1-3 moments in.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that most of the floor at the Commerce are pretty low tolerance for angle shooting people, and they're pretty protective of the players. When I kind of like I'm mentally going through like the Rolodex of like floor people, I feel like they're all like pretty good, right? Yeah, so definitely come play at the Commerce for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Poker Wins asked about Saturday and Sunday Garden tournament. This weekend, we'll cover that soon. It's their tournaments for the series. They're extra big guarantees. Definitely don't miss them. And in general, Saturday and Sunday and Friday tournaments are the dailies down there, and they're huge. They have 20K guarantees, and they almost always get well over double that, like 43, 44, 48,000 in the prize pool. It's crazy. But let's hop back and talk about some more of these rules. Kevin Mathers had some threads out about changes in the rules that from the prior years, and one of the things that I want to make sure I point out that is hilarious is that players cannot request a scramble this year at the World Series. It was removed from the tournament rules. So you can no longer ask for a wash. I'm sorry, you people who think you're unlucky and you guys that are trying to stall. There is no more asking for a scramble.
Yeah, the people that are constantly asking for a scramble, I'm just like,
I
yeah.
love it.
I'm glad they at least restrict it to only being able to ask on the button. There's typically only like one person to ask per table. But yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah. And I do like this. When hand for hand play is due to happen, the clock will be paused after the first table completes their current hand. Love it. I love it. I hate watching,
So
like being done and watching two and a
wait,
half.
say that again. What is it?
So when hand for hand play is about to happen, is due to happen, the clock will be paused after the first table completes their current hand.
Oh, okay, that's nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a nice little quality of life
Yeah.
improvement.
So that'll save us another minute and a half to 3 minutes, depending on how big the event is, right? So that's great. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. There's some rules here that you were very keen to see. In fact, I think you're in this thread, right?
Yeah.
So here's the rule. Approved electronic devices, prohibited filming, streaming. Now, it's funny, they mention iPods in MP3 players and stuff. Basically, the first part of these rules are pretty standard. You know, you can't actively be using your devices or whatnot until but you can have your music players, you can have your headphones, but when you get to the final table, then no devices are allowed. Everything's got to be off.
Yeah.
Nothing in your ears,
remember-
nothing in your hands, nothing. Everything's gone.
I remember years ago, I don't remember when they stopped doing this, but as soon as you got into the money, they wouldn't let you wear headphones. This is like a while ago. I remember like
Ooh.
the very first time it happened, I was like, what? Really? But I'm glad that it's only a final table thing now.
Yep, final tables and feature tables, because they'll be streamed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the thing that is interesting to you, because you're doing a vlog now, is that
Yeah.
if you do not have media credentials, you cannot film video or audio except when you're all in and there's no
and you're
action.
just, like,
So
going with this,
yep,
yeah.
you're only allowed to film at the table without a media pass if it's your all in hand. That is it.
You know what's interesting is that almost all the casinos kind of have this as like a soft rule. So anytime I'm vlogging, I feel like I'm just sort of sneaking around and putting stuff up. I'm not talking to the TDs about it, even though they know I'm doing it, right? And because they know that I'm doing a good job promoting casino, but generally I think it's against casino rules to record. So all I think the WSOP did here was write it down, and now it's very explicit. But yeah, I would be interested in KevMatt didn't respond. Usually he responds to everything, so I guess he just doesn't know. But I would be interested to see, can vloggers get a press pass, right? And how do we get one? Because I would love to be able to vlog WSOP, obviously.
Yeah, you might try and connect with some other vloggers will be playing and see
Yeah,
if it was a tough process for them,
Yeah.
Or how selective
I'm
they
pretty
are.
sure. I'm pretty sure Daniel will get his press pass easy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he's got one for sure.
Yeah.
Another interesting must be a change because Kevin's pointing it out is that this year prizes for bounties won and for placing in bounty tournaments will be collected at the same time, and they will be combined for tax reporting. So I'm not sure if that means that before you would get two different tax papers, or if that meant like in some bounty events, particularly the ones that aren't massive, like just the, like your standard, you get some small amount per person. A lot of times those bounties were kind of on the side and weren't recorded at all as part of your prizes. So it sounds like all of the bounties for all the bounty events will now be combined and put into your prize amounts. So
I guess that's good. I've never actually played a bounty event at the WSOP, I don't think. So I guess I have no experience with it, but that seems fine.
And yeah, I don't know if this is new, but he points it out that at the end of every day's play, when you get to some point between 7 and 13 minutes left in play for the day, they'll draw a card between 3 and 7 for how many hands will be played before you bag. So
Yep.
yeah,
I think they used to do that too. Yeah.
Yep. So that's something else he pointed out.
Yeah, that's I'm excited. I'm always excited for the World Series in the summer. I love going over there, even though I don't love being away from home for so long. This is kind of nice. It's our own little like summer camp, right? And also now we're at a nicer place to Paris instead of the freaking Rio.
Yeah.
Some better restaurants and stuff. Obviously it's like a little bit smoky on the valley side, but it is just like a lot of fun to be over there. So excited to see all of you over there too.
Yeah, and they call it the Horseshoe now, not Bally.
Oh yeah. And there's also like some casino called like the Tower over at Bally's that I think they're building some sort of bridge so you don't have to go through Bally's to get over to the tower or something like that.
You
So
mean
maybe
the
look out
Horseshoe,
for
or
that.
do you mean the actual Bally's they just shut down?
I think they're making it basically where you can get to it from Paris. So I guess it's like Valley / Horseshoe. I don't know, but it's some like tower that's supposed to be a little bit nicer and more premium. I already booked the Paris, so
Gotcha.
anyways.
Oh, Caitlin's gonna be there all summer. Oh, you got a nice Airbnb, or you live out? You got a second home out there. Nice.
Oh man, I wish I can.
Yeah.
I think
we're jealous.
that's my dream. I think it's my dream to spend like an entire summer of events playing that, but I'm not sure that's ever gonna
exhausted,
happen.
right?
Yeah.
So exhausted. Yeah, Caitlin thinks you mean Paris and Horseshoe or something, or that the tower's going to be at Paris.
Maybe, I don't remember. I read something like a couple weeks ago, a month ago. Yeah.
So we will, this is mildly related to tournaments, because I have played with this gentleman at the Commerce before. I have played, I think, just once, but I spent, at the table for about an hour and a half, sitting there playing with Mr. Ryan Garcia at a Commerce tournament. It was like probably just like a $400 or $600 tournament, multi-day, sitting there playing. He's in a hoodie trying to be incognito, and I remember once he busted, I didn't realize he was going to snap rebuy. I thought it was kind of later, and he was kind of keeping a low profile, and I kind of gave him, like, I just seen him play in Hustler Casino Live. I kind of gave him like a, hey, you're that guy, right? And he's like, yeah. And he's like in his hoodie. And then when he busted and he left, I'm like, guys, you know who that was, right? I'm like, and but then he rebought and got put at the table next to me. And then like these other two guys started, they were bugging him on the breaks and stuff. I'm like, oh man, I didn't realize he's coming back right away. But he's real good. He's real good with the fans. But Ryan Garcia, local LA poker player, played on Hustler Casino Live. I think he plays some big home games around here. He had himself quite a weekend. Let's take a look at some of these highlights.
Devin Haney doesn't have the power, but he does have the accuracy and timing. If you're that aggressive, get overconfident.
Big left hand by Garcia. Rocks Haney early. Garcia said he was going to knock him out in the first round.
Out back.
And down goes Devin Haney.
He may be a one-trick pony, but that trick is enough. That left hook is lethal.
Kid Garcia stunned the boxing world. Devin the Dream Haney is going through a nightmare now.
As frequently as it needs to happen.
Oh, and he's got it rocked again. And down for a second time. It's Devin Haney.
So Ryan Garcia was a huge underdog in this fight. I guess he was a 6-1. You could bet 6-1 on him there, and he came up with a huge win. I guess he was 3 pounds away from this being big title match. Like I guess he came in.
He missed weight. Yeah.
Yeah, was it 3 pounds overweight or something? And
Yeah,
if he
yeah, he
hadn't
missed
done
weight.
that, this would have been a title fight, and he would have a number of belts now.
Right. Yeah.
So, wow, congratulations to Ryan. I sure would never want to ever see that left hook come. I probably wouldn't even see it if it were coming. You told the story
Yeah, I
once
told-
about how fast, right? About his
Yeah, he
hand
like
speed.
jabbed my hand. He jabbed my hand for a fist bump, and I didn't even see it. And he just grazed it. Like he probably went exactly where he wanted it to go. It was crazy. And I was like, "This is a professional boxer." Right
Yeah,
here.
so that left hook is not one you ever want coming towards you. But we talked about Ryan about a month ago because his social medias were blowing up with weird stuff, right? Conspiracy theories, just random babble, talks about like just people speculating if he's doing a lot of drinking and like, partying too much, et cetera, et cetera. And, well, as I said, you could bet 6-1 on him, and you know what? You're allowed to bet on yourself in these fights, apparently. I didn't even realize that, but you're allowed to bet on yourself, and apparently Ryan found someplace he could put $2 million down on himself, and he won $12 million on that bet. 12 freaking million on top of the, I think, $45 million he got for the fight.
Yeah. Well, he apparently made $50 million. He said over the weekend between the fight purse and the bet. So that's crazy.
Holy cow! And that's after paying like $1.5 million in penalties for the overweight that he just made a bet with Haney on. And people are saying, and he's kind of he's leaning into it. He's kind of backing up that he was doing a lot of that stuff and acting somewhat crazy to change the odds to get the line to move in his favor so he could bet on himself more. Like, if that's true, that's crazy. That's genius. It's crazy that it worked on the books,
Yeah.
on the bookmakers, that they fell for it, and it's way to back it up. Like, he just dominated in those later rounds.
And I'm obviously for athletes betting on themselves to win, because that seems like one of those not exploitable things where you can't throw a fight or a game or something like that. But then I guess something like this probably stretches the spirit of that type of
Right.
wager. And as long as it's like a straight bet, like me to win, right?
Yep.
And not something to like, buy knockout or cover a
Yeah,
point spread or
exactly.
something like
Yep.
that, right? Yeah, as long as it's like a straight bet to win, I think it's totally fine.
I think those are the laws, is you cannot bet on any props, but you can bet just straight up for you to win, right? So like money line. So I don't think so sport leagues are different. They'll ban you for stuff, but I think it's legal to bet like money lines on your own self team, whatever. As long as it's not a prop, it's not something you're going to control to manipulate like that. As long as it's just like, well, you should be trying to win anyways, so you're going to bet that you're going to win. That seems fine. That's nuts though, that they can move the line so much. And honestly, here in these situations, the other reason it's like not such a big deal to me is the only one they're hurting is the book. So if they hurt the book, that means the book set a bad line. So it's kind of on them, right?
This is true. Yeah, he fooled all the books, I suppose, because they are the ones who set the line. But yeah, and then the betting market that moves the line, here and there, especially the sharps. Yeah, I guess he got everyone to buy in.
Yeah. I mean, I was concerned for the guy. I saw his tweets. I don't know him at all, but I will say this. After he rebought that tournament, he and his friends were definitely having some fun with the Coronas. So I think when I saw him on Hustler, it was well, actually I don't remember that. But anyways, the tweets definitely had me concerned. I'm like, ooh, I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know this fella, but I hope I hope this isn't anything real. But it turns out he was just fine, and he was sharp as can be. So. I hope to see him at the circuit event. Honestly, I wonder if he's taking some time off. He might come and play because he loves poker. He loves poker.
He really does love, and you know what's funny is his parents also play poker. They actually, and not only did his parents enter the same tournament they were in, but they both of them got sat down at the same table we were at. It was pretty nuts. He was like, "Hey, Dad," "Hey, Mom." Yeah, and his dad is like he plays like super aggro, just almost like the personality completely fits from what you see on TV. I'm not a huge like boxing fan. I watch them on occasion, like some big fights like this one, and I'm a casual, right? I'm super casual. But man, the holding and the grabbing is the absolute worst. I cannot stand it. It's like anytime something is about to happen, you just grab. And it's very different from MMA. I'm a huge MMA fan, right? Like, clinching and grappling and dirty boxing and wrestling, that's all part of the game and it's part of offense, right? Here, all it is you're trying to just hold the person and there's nothing that person can do. And actually, Garcia got penalized, right, for punching out of the break. And that's like a thing that's allowed in MMA. So I really do think they need to do something about, or, just like throw out penalties a lot faster, right, for holding, because it was like it was just really frustrating. It's really frustrating to watch.
Yeah, no, I think the refs, a really good ref is just so much more important in that to keep that moving and keep the sport going there. And it's I mean, I used to there was a summer or two where I really enjoyed watching boxing, especially these lighter weights. It was where it tended to be fewer KOs and more points and more technical. But yeah, I'm with you. I haven't really watched it much in quite a while, and there's definitely things about it that are. MMA has its own sort of, problems as a spectator sport, but it's neither here nor there. Congratulations to Ryan. We will continue following you for sure, especially if we start seeing you at these events. So I really hope to see him at the circuit event.
Yeah. So Edgar, I think Tyson's fighting Jake Paul.
Yeah. That's it. They're doing an event. Let's move on. So it is, I hit the button a little early, and this time I'm not going to jump the gun, but this weekend is the second week of the first week of the Encore, the second week of the Garden Series, and at the end of the month, Lucky Lady is going to be doing a series. So let's talk about what's coming up in this tournament scene around LA to finish this up. So before we get to the roundup, let me just kind of announce what's coming further in the horizon. So here at the Lucky Lady, at the end of the month, so after the circuit event and basically when the World Series starts, it's kind of for everyone who's not going to the World Series to play in the Mystery Million. here's some events over at Lucky Lady. They will be having a couple kickoff events and then a $50,000 $335 buy-in event this weekend, first weekend of June, and then the second week of June through how deep is this? Yeah, the second week of June, ending on 6/16 for the day 2. They're actually having a 100K guarantee tournament with 20K guaranteed for first place. So that's pretty good. And they actually have a double qualifying, a double bag bonus here. And it is only $235 entry fee. So that's value for $235. $235 entry fee for a chance to win 20 grand or more. That is going to be a really good value tournament. So if you are sticking around and you're hanging out, I saw in the chat, I think Julie was saying how she plays down at Lucky Lady. I've played an event. In fact, I final tabled an event with her down there. So that is definitely one to keep on the lookout for if you will not be at the World Series just yet.
Yeah,
Now,
sounds like I still haven't been to the Lucky Lady, but I hear such good things about them, and they seem like they're running some pretty fun, interesting, action-laden tournaments.
Yeah, no, the action is definitely good at different spots. Now, I've been talking with Vince, is one of the tournament directors there. I've been kind of talking with him about some of their structures. Some of their structures could use a little bit of TLC, in my opinion. In particular, a couple of their events, they take structures from different events and then just change the chip stack, which really doesn't work. But hopefully these events will have slightly better thought out structures. If nothing else, they'll grab them from some other events. So here is the Gardens for this week. So Caitlin wishes that they had a monster stack this week. Well, how does a deep stack sound? How does a deep stack sound? They're having a deep stack on Friday and Saturday. $360 buy-in on Friday. And you know what? Let me run the... All right. Caitlin got me jumping into this a little quick with her prompt. It was perfect. So this weekend, you got to get down there to the Gardens, in my opinion. Friday, $360 buy-in, deep stack, 50K guarantee. If you looked at what we showed before for their last 50K guarantee, I think that got up to 90. So I think this one's going to get up to at least 85. Saturday, 100K guarantee for $500 buy-in. That's going to smash. That's probably going to get to at least 100. I wouldn't be surprised if I got to 200, honestly, but that's going to get to, in a one day, I bet that's going to get to 150, or 140 easily.
I don't know if I can mentally take a one-day tournament at the Gardens, but I also don't know if I can miss a $500 buy-in, big prize pool.
Yeah, $500 100K. I mean, that's the, you know what? Their rake is the best in town. The bike runs their 100Ks with $600 buy-in, remember?
I almost want to say like I should late reg, but it's also not great late regging there because that's the worst thing that you can do is be at a table with a bunch of insane people with deep stacks and then you're a short stack trying to spin it up. It's very, very irritating.
Yeah.
So I'll have to strategically figure out what to do on Saturday, but I don't think I'm going to miss this one. I don't think anybody else should too.
Saturday, you got to go on Saturday. You have to go on Saturday. I may not go to, I may miss the Friday or the Sunday because I need to put in a couple more hours to get qualified for the Commerce pre-roll.
Oh, yeah.
So I will need to go down there and put my hours in. It's not easy. Sacrifices we have to make. Julie's giving shout out to Vince, the TD down at Lucky Lady. Vince is a great guy. I've gone down to Lucky Lady probably 5 times this year now and love Vince. Cool dude. Like I said, he was the one I was talking to about their structures. Definitely would love to spend more time helping them out with that or whatnot because that 50K, Caitlin, you want 50,000 chips? I don't know. That Savage average seems awfully fun. And we were talking about buying straight into the day 2s of these quantums and how the structure starting there with 66 blinds is still really good throughout the very end. These 50,000 chips, man, it's fun for the first 2 or 3 hours, but at the Lucky Lady, when we get 50,000 chips by 4 levels after reg is over, it's suddenly everyone's got 15 big blinds or less, and it's just not fun anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think the way to look at it is, the preference, I think, for most people is let's say you even start with 40 bigs, but you end up with 40 bigs at a final table. That's better than 200 bigs to start and 15 at the final table, right? It's like way, way better.
Yeah.
So like the Savage average itself, like the implementation details kind of almost don't matter because it's almost just a forcing function to get you to have more chips deep, which is really what everybody should be doing.
Yep. Absolutely. And David agrees. He's on that side. But I was trying to work with Vince to, say you can start with 50,000 chips, but you got to move some of the play to different spots, right? So let's see how that goes. So continuing on with the encore, right? So that is all the big stuff for this weekend. Now they still have their regular dailies on, I think it's Wednesday and Thursday. They're going to do their normal dailies at the Gardens on those days. And then next week, later in the week, they're going to be starting up all of the stuff with their, they must be having satellites as usual. They must just not be shown here. I can't imagine they're not doing them. But then they're going to have another 1,100, 200K the following weekend. So that's awesome. This weekend, we have great 1 days. The following weekend, another 1K. And like I said, that 5-5 date on Sunday is when the free roll at Commerce will be happening. So I don't think I'll be playing this 1K because they are at the
that's
exact
unfortunate.
same time. Yeah, I'm very upset about it, honestly. I've honestly considered playing just like firing one shot. If I bag another 500K, just letting it blind out, I'll make like $3,000. It's fine.
Yeah, this could be a big one too because I think the Commerce Series starts the next week. Is that right?
Yep. The Commerce Series starts the following week on the 10th. So this is.
Yeah, so I think.
Yep.
Yeah, people will be back in town, and also maybe some people will be in town. And I'm pretty sure if they hear that a 1K is going on at the Gardens there, they're probably gonna come play it.
Yeah, and who doesn't need a warm up before the housewarming? And we'll get to that later, of course. We'll get to that later when it gets a little closer. So other tournaments going on this weekend. The Lucky Lady has their actually, they do have a kind of special quote-unquote tournament, that mega stack that you were talking about with the 50K starting chips. That is happening this weekend, April 27th, 3 p.m. So if you bust the event at the Gardens on the 27th, head on over to Lucky Lady. I've said this before, and the time I final tabled with Julie actually was this tournament, and I got through on the bullet that I max late regged. So there's, with 50K in chips in a structure like that, there's nothing wrong with starting late.
Yep.
So that's a good one on the 27th. And then on Monday, they will actually be doing their, on the 29th, they have some partnership with, with Cedric and the Bad Beat Blockers. They have a sponsored tournament on Monday. And that is a slightly larger event than their usual Monday. I think it's like maybe $200 instead of $130 or something. And I'm not sure what they're going to do this time, but apparently in the March one, the winner, Cedric, gave or Bad Beat Blockers, I should say, probably, gave the winner of the March event a kind of staked them for the Mystery Millions at the World Series. So for a 50-50 split, he's going to stake them for a buy-in at Mystery Millions. I don't think they've said or guaranteed anything for Mondays, but, maybe they'll do something again. And, keep your ear out. It could be interesting.
Yeah, good job, Cedric. It looks like you're getting out there and doing some cool stuff in the poker community.
Julie, the free roll. So if you aren't aware, go to the Commerce website. It's or go to commerceinsider.com, and you'll find details. If you go to the Commerce website and you go to their promotions, what it is if you played 100 hours of cash at Commerce this month or more, you have you're qualified for their free roll. And what the free roll is going to do is they're giving away 20 packages to become a Commerce Pro. What that means is they're going to give you a main event World Series buy-in and 6 buy-ins, or rather 6 entries in this circuit event that total, roughly, I think roughly like $8,000 maybe in value.
Yeah,
and then they're going to give
insane package.
6 entries into the November circuit event that will be at Commerce. That also, is going to roughly equal that. And then they give you $5,000 in cash for travel. So they're giving away 20 of those packages that they say they're valuing at $30,000. And, also some Commerce Pro swag, like a, shirt, a hat, a hoodie or something. That is, so they're giving away a total of $600,000 in value in this free roll for their cash game players this month.
Yeah, that's an insane package. Obviously, I think it might be a little bit late in the game to try to grind 100 hours now, but give it a shot anyway because it's just totally worth it. If I had the time, I would have done it.
Yep, you've only got 7 or 8 days, like really 7 days left, so you would have to put in some insane grinding to do it. So, but if you've got some hours there already, let's go. I mean, and the first person to hit the 100 hours did it in 7 days, or was it 8 days? They did it in 8 days, I think. On the 9th day, they put up a post saying he made it to 100. So
wow. Yeah.
Yep. So that was super impressive. So maybe you grind like that guy, you can still get it. All right. So other tournaments that are going on this week, the Commerce has their dailies still happening. So if I'm over there, I'm playing cash to get the hours, but they are still happening. And the Hollywood Park has all of its regular tournaments. Nothing special going on this week, just kind of their standard events, and that schedule is also on their website. But there are no days where they have events going on, so all of the normal days, tournament over there at Hollywood Park as well. But for us, we will definitely be at the Gardens, despite the fact that Derek thinks he's dead money over there.
I'm gonna be crying after that one day, but I'm gonna go there, eat some ceviche, and play some poker.
Yeah, well, I've seen a number of service animals, very large ones in there, so you could probably, if you want to bring your bird, I bet they wouldn't mind, or your cat, service cat to help you through the day. You could probably manage that.
I think that cat would probably just start scratching me in the face and making it worse.
Making it worse, it would just be externalizing what how you feel is happening with the cards.
It's like my spirit animal the other way.
Yeah. All right. Oh yeah, and that's also a thing. If you are on Club GG, they are running satellites for the LA circuit event. So if you're on Club GG and you have the tickets or however that works, I don't really play on Club GG, but if you're on there, they are running circuits. I saw someone post on Twitter last week and today that you can do it.
You can play Club GG from California because it's like a subscription.
Yeah, that's the subscription one, and you can play and grind tickets, or when you subscribe, you get tickets to start with, that kind of thing. Yep. All right.
Oh, so, what is the Venom at ACR is this weekend too?
Oh, is it?
But I was kind of not wanting to play on ACR. Anyways, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, online.
I'll figure it out.
Online's lame. You want this kind of action. It's kind of like. Oh man, now I wish I had it queued up. It's kind of like the hand that Poker Face Ash lost, the last hand of her stream down in Texas. Derek, you want that action. You want that action.
Not during a downswing. I don't want that action.
You always want that. How are you going to get out of it if you don't get jammed on by 8-5 offsuit when you have aces? How are you going to get out of that downswing?
Yeah, this is true.
All right, guys. If you haven't seen that hand, it's fun. Go look it up. Maria Ho, Phil Hellmuth, Poker Face Ash were playing down in Texas. Wild final hand.
Yeah, it's on the Poker Go Twitter account if you want to.
Oh, and Derek quote tweeted it. So just go to Derek's. Yeah, just go to Derek's Twitter. Yep. All right, guys. That is all we have for you this week. I will be at the Gardens and at Commerce. So when I bust out, I'll either be going to Commerce or there's a slight chance I'll run over to Lucky Lady to max late reg. But I run real good at the Gardens, right? I won't need to leave. I'll be there all weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a good weekend. Definitely get out there. All jokes aside, obviously the Gardens is a great place to play. Kevin is one of the best tournament directors around. Incredibly well-run place. A very, very nice casino. Maybe the nicest one that we have in LA. Lots of action if you can, take it.
Hey, big action, big swings. Let's go. All right, guys. Have a great day. Have a great week, and we will